We're picking this up in the second video on November 17th. We have actually made an alignment. We're going to go right away, and we made a vertical existing profile, a proposed profile with just one straight tangent. We're going to change that in a second. We're going to then right away minus V, W for window, overall, underscore, profile. From here to here. The kinds of things that right away in this profile become then necessary once you get your profile in is it just makes a lot of sense here to go. I'm going to hit it, finish up on the profile here. I'm going to make sense to go to here, change your profile view properties, go over here. Remember, again, some of you can work with this. Many of us cannot work with all those lines there because of the snapping, what goes to it. Turn those off, apply, and then at this point it is also a good idea to go into here, click on that, go to profile view properties and go to the bands, and then make sure that your bands are set up so one is existing and one is proposed, and this way everything is cut and so you have it actually correct. The right side is proposed, the left side is existing. We would like to change this on the left to just be reported to a 10th, but we're going to survive without it for now. Once you now have something and you need to edit it, if you click on the profile, not the profile view, you grab geometry editor, you can now then start to add, right, float tangent through point, but you can start to add other vertical points of intersection. So I'm going to do that here. You remember 200 feet to the right, something like there, and then we're going to go back up, and then back down, and then back up, and then just you're coming back into it. You now have done a proposed vertical with straight tangents. That, of course, you should have thought out by high points, low points, stations, elevations, and which is in fact why you can once again get used to using that Z drive or that Z layer, set things there so that you can go about and control this stuff. And I'm going to try to set my layer here to be the Z. You can control this stuff both in and out of Civil 3D. So I'm going to hit there. You might now have some constraints that you know you need to put in. So for instance here, I might have needed to go under some power lines at station 21000, so I could do something like a circle at 21000, comma 10800, and then I guess I was wrong there on my elevation. That would be a circle there, and you can see, I'm not sure what layer it went in there. It's kind of odd that it went into Z constraint layer. So we'll check on the coloring there. We're clicking on that list. Okay, it is on that, and it's probably looks like it's going down underneath. So I'm going to erase that out. We'll double check on that. It actually locked. That's on a locked layer. If you notice there, it put it on a locked layer. That's pretty, right? It's going to happen on a regular basis. I don't see it too much. So did that put that in the right elevation? At 10600, what did I put in? You make sure that you double check when I brought this in here. If you notice there, this is not in the right spot. ID, the intersection. And so that needs to go down 200 feet. Left click, spacebar, at 200 angle. 270. Now, of course, things are going to be where I wanted them to be, 1060. So you really got to get used to putting things in the right spot and then checking them a couple of times. ID, the intersection there, or at least there you've got it. ID, just a particular point, 1092, and then you've got a set of tools off here on the right which actually work within Civil 3D. That said, you've got a horizontal with tangents. You can do the verticals now that you're learning with Greg. Vertical curve, grab your first entity, grab your second entity. I'll just go with a K-vector of 50. It doesn't do it. A K-vector of 15. It does. grab the first one, grab the second one, a K factor of 15, which is the minimum typically. You're going to grab here and here, a K factor of 50. It does it there. Grab this and this, a K factor of 40. Just learning to eventually pass things through in a K factor of 20. Right? So that in the end, now you have your vertical information here. Again, as you click on this, if you need to then look at the geometry editor, the data is then stored in here. It will be there as well when you have a non-symmetrical parabola curve, unequal tangent curve. It's all stored in the data. You now have everything you need for the vertical. You now can zoom down to the center, zoom, center, 0, 0, 100, and you don't put things at 0, 0, you put things at 0, 20, but you immediately make two assemblies. You go to assembly, create assembly. One you're going to call the 4606. I'm going to call mine November 17th. You put that where at 0, 20. And then right away you might want to do both so you can see them so you don't forget. Create assembly. This one is going to be called the null assembly. Hit OK. That's going to be at 0, 40. This is just a construct. You got one on the bottom, one on the top. The null is up here. That will not change at all. But now what you're going to do is you need to then go through and now start making subassemblies. So subassembly, that's what we checked in the beginning. You want to use the generic. So I'm going to just do a lane generic subassembly. It comes up like that. You're going to grab, it's going to do the right side. You're going to then once again grab another subassembly. I would recommend in the short term doing this with just the curb and gutter without changing anything. The help is there when you need it, but you want to get something working. That looks good. And then you want to use the daylight, the generic subassembly link. Once again, close it here. It should be relatively set to work. Immediately, you would like to change the names on these things. If you do, you will tend to forget that. That's kind of okay. 4606 underscore lane generic. (4606) underscore lane curb and gutter generic. And finally here, in this case, 4606 underscore right. You now have your assembly made. On one side, you grab 1, 2, 3. If you've grabbed other things that won't work, you click on mirror subassemblies, you hit here. It actually has gone and renamed them on the right side, on the left side. You now do -V, W for window, view name to save is assembly 1 perhaps, first corner from here to here. You actually box them and label them as well. That's the null assembly. You're now good to go to make a corridor. So it probably works best to go to where you need to go, but you do not need to. It's all about the data. Corridor, create simple corridor, 4606. November 17th, right? You've got a couple different styles here. You hit OK. You grab off of a list. You're going to have a big long list depending on what you brought into your project. You hit OK there. You grab off a profile, hit a space bar, grab off a list. You grab the proposed. Grab off a list again for the assembly. You can either grab the null assembly through, or it makes a lot of sense to grab that one there, hit OK. It comes at you with a lot of targets based on what you picked, but you definitely have that target you want to do. You're going to hit OK here. It generates your corridor, giving you probably a bunch of errors, but you do view at this point. You can go view to overall plan, set current, OK. And now you've got a corridor in there. Your final steps now on the corridor is you're going to grab, I've got another couple minutes here, you're going to grab, try not to grab the edges, try to grab the actual corridor cross sections. Immediately you're going to go to there, you're going to go to corridor properties, you're going to go to information parameters, and you're going to make at least 3 regions, but more likely you're going to need like 5. 1 at the beginning, 1 at the end, and 1 in the middle at any intersection, and then others throughout. So you're going to tend to go to your region, you're going to hit cancel, you're going to go to the region, hit right click, you're going to split region, and for instance you're going to key this in, you know what your stationing is, so I'm going to go 21200 since I began at 2100. It's going to break it and give me their error message. I'm going to go ahead and do another one at 22000. What you do is you go to that region, you hit a right click, you split the region, you give it a name, maybe 22000. It gives you that error message. Now you've got a couple, and at very least you want to go in the middle. The beginning and the ending regions are going to be the ones that probably you want a null assembly in, because of the fact that, I'm going to cancel here, you want to grab that assembly as null in the beginning, hit OK, and null in the end as well. That's because typically you're going to have data issues on your tin, either one or the other. Last 2 bits here, you notice I've got this gapping through there, way too much gap. But as I go here now, the last thing's on that corridor. You click on the corridor. You go to corridor properties. You're going to go to surfaces. You're going to click on the second link. It's going to generate a lot of surfaces. The one you really want to rename right away, you want to click on that. You want to rename that the corridor surface. You're going to rename it. It is called top. The 2 surfaces that are of note are top and datum. Once again, you go back and you're going to make another surface. You're going to corridor properties. You go to the surfaces. The one you're looking for is the datum. You've got a lot of different ones depending on what corridor you've used. You're going to go here. You're going to click in that. You're going to rename that one to be datum. You're going to hit that, OK. The last then bit is, at least for those 2 surfaces, you're going to go to corridor properties. You're going to go to boundaries. And this will be something you're going to do better than this later, but you're going to add automatically. And usually it's going to be something like a daylight, which we don't see here, so it didn't take. So you're going to add the daylight. So in this case, the daylight did not take on one side, it looks like, on the top, but I'll go ahead and just put pavement 1 there, and on the datum the same. So you want to make sure that later on it's add interactively, is that you do. You're actually going to grab a first point on a feature line, end point there, and then you're going to do pick one thing, something, hit OK, and then you're going to kind of go through and you'll see it kind of grab around. Alright, so we're going to redo that. That is the end of it. You now have something that you can go to your surfaces and export. Thanks for listening.